So this video is going to be all about how I run my online art shop. If you don't know who I am, I'm JelArts. I've been posting videos of my art for over 10 years and I've been running an online shop for the last few years, and I've learned a lot on the way, and I thought it would be nice to kind of like compile all my tips in one video and explain how I do things. I ship things from Canada, so some of this advice will be Canadian specific, but most of it can apply to anybody. So if you're Canadian or you're an artist looking to sell your prints, your stickers, enamel pins, you don't know how to get started, you don't know what platforms to use, how to market yourself, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to be talking about all of that in this video, so I hope you will enjoy. A very common question that I get is when to start selling, and there's no right time, but you want to make sure that you have some kind of online presence. It doesn't have to be massive, but you want to make sure you have some social media sites. You want to have a handle that is recognizable and easy to pronounce, easy to spell, easy to remember, something that's personal to yourself. If you already have some eyes on your work and you know what it is you want to sell, it might be time to start to consider looking into your options and getting started with an online shop. Also, if you're really interested in it and the thought of an online store excites you, that's also a really good sign, because you're going to need excitement, you're going to need some passion going into this because it is a lot of work, and if you enjoy it, it makes it easier. You don't want to do it out of obligation, you want to do it out of interest and enjoyment in what you're doing. And if you don't have a huge following, there are ways to get around this by using an online storefront that has a marketplace function, and the biggest one is obviously Etsy, and there are definitely pros and cons to Etsy. I've never used it, but I've heard that there are a lot of fees. But this is sort of the trade-off that comes with having a marketplace. And what this means is that on Etsy, people can search, say they want a frog sticker, they'll search frog sticker on Etsy and see tons of different shops show up, tons of different stickers, and yours might end up there. And someone can stumble upon your shop if they are just browsing. This is not true for Shopify. I think like big Cartel, Squarespace, Wix, all those build your own shops. Those ones you have to drive traffic to yourself, but the marketplace ones, they do some advertising for you, so it might help you get sales more easily if you don't have a large following. So what are you going to be selling? It's important to have obviously a good idea of what you want to be selling. You can start off with small things like stickers and prints. You can also start off with digital products, which I still have yet to do, but basically this means you offer a file for purchase and people can buy it and they have access to the file. You can sell wallpapers, you can sell printables, you can sell calendars, brushes, videos, like all sorts of digital products that don't require you to ship stuff out. This can be a good way to get started without having to invest in any inventory, or this can be a good like supplemental thing to have alongside your physical products that you end up offering. When I first started my shop, I started on Ticktail. Ticktail does not exist anymore, but I liked it a lot. It was very simple. I began selling sticker packs, prints for a long time, and I would get Cricut printable vinyl. I would print it out on my parents' color printer and cut everything out by hand. It was very time consuming, but I wasn't getting a ton of orders at the time, so I could keep up with them. And it was a good way to sort of like dip my toes into online selling. It's good to start small and manageable and do things that aren't too big of an investment up front. My first manufactured product was an enamel pin. It was my backpack frog enamel pin, and I still have him for sale because he has a special place in my heart. He was my first designed manufactured product. I sort of just started with those 3 types of products, and only in the last couple of years I've expanded into washi tape, tote bags, lanyards, post-it notes, keychains, plushies like this guy. After I was cutting out stickers by hand for a long time, it became too time consuming and I got a Cricut. A lot of people have issues with Cricut machines, but I found that as long as you calibrate the machine and make sure you're not using glossy material, or that the glossy part of the material is not where the registration marks are, because Cricut does not like to cut glossy material, it doesn't like to scan it. When you use a Cricut, you have to print out your stickers all on a page, and there's little registration marks for the machine to read before it begins the cut, and if those are glossy, it doesn't always like reading those. You can put matte Scotch tape on top of them to get it to read it better. But anyways, my Cricut worked pretty well for me. A lot of people will say like, don't get a Cricut because it's terrible and hard to use. But I think if you're really patient with it and make sure that you're not like trying to read glossy material, it will work. For me, it did. Some people have had horrible problems. Some people prefer using a silhouette machine. There's a lot of different cutting machines. And there might be a lot of troubleshooting to find the right cut, pressure, and all sorts of stuff. I could talk about Cricuts for a long time, but that's not really what this video is about. I do have some videos on how I make stickers. I don't make my own stickers anymore though, but I have videos on how I used to do it. And I also laminate them. Now, if I ever make my own, I'll use Avery laminating sheets. But nowadays I order all of my stickers from Sticker App. That is my sticker manufacturer. They've always been great. Well, they've been having some problems lately with like cutting things crooked, but I'm just gonna hope that solves itself. If there's ever any issues with your orders, you can contact them and they'll reprint stuff for you, so that's good. About sourcing products, like where are you gonna get your products made? As I just said, I use Sticker App for my stickers. For my prints, I use a local print shop called The Printing House here in Canada, and I pay a little extra for some nice paper textures. For keychains and lanyards, I use Vocrace. For more complex items, I would recommend going to Alibaba. There's a really good video about this from Apple Cheeks if you want to watch on how to find manufacturers on Alibaba, because I'm still a little bit new to it, but I'm starting to sort of get it down. It's certainly a process if you want to get like plushies made or like very customized items that can only be made overseas reasonably. Enamel pins are not made in North America. All enamel pins are made overseas, usually in China. So you're gonna have to use one of those companies for that. But I would recommend, if you're just beginning your shop, start with small, inexpensive products like stickers and prints. You could even do post-it notes and like stationery, stuff like that. But those are starting to get a little bit more into the pricey range. Some artists started their shop purely as a sticker shop, and people love stickers. Stickers are my best-selling item. They're not the item that make me the most money, but they are my best-selling item. Well, I guess if you add together all of the stickers that I've sold, they probably make me the most money, but each individual design doesn't make as much revenue as like other types of bigger products. I also used to print from home. I would print on my Canon Pixma Pro 100 printer. I don't use that anymore though. I use the Epson EcoTank, which is really nice. And I would recommend using Red River paper. If you're looking for good art print paper, they have a lot of really nice options. But if you're in Canada like me, it's really hard to get them shipped here. It's very expensive. So if you're in the States, that might be a good option because it's totally doable to make your own prints at home if you have a nice printer, but the printer itself is an investment. So maybe after you've sold a couple of stickers here and there or prints, or you've made enough to invest, a printer might be a good investment. Or you can continue to get stuff manufactured because it's quicker and usually better quality than you can make at home. And if you don't have a printer, you should check out local print shops to see what their prices are, because sometimes you can get lower quantity orders locally. You can go and pick them up in person instead of getting them shipped. And some places might even let you print on label paper and you can cut them out yourself. Some local places might make stickers. It's really good to look around in your area for print shops because some of them might not seem like they do art prints. And I don't really make like art prints. I make sort of like postcard prints, which is why my prints aren't super expensive. They're still great quality, but they're not like fine art quality. They're more like digital printing, but they're still really nice. And I just found like a random local print place. I asked them for samples. I looked through all the different paper stocks that they had, and I found some uncoated stocks that were really nicely textured. It's a little more expensive, but I've always wanted my prints to have a bit of texture and have them be matte. So that's what I did. When I was in university, a lot of my classmates and myself would use the school print shop to get stickers printed out on label paper, and they would cut it out, and you can even get prints printed onto cardstock. So there's lots of options. You just have to do a little bit of digging and a little bit of research, because where you live depends on your options will depend on where you live and if you can get stuff shipped or if you can find local places to pick up. I don't pick up my prints. I just get them sent to me because I don't want to make the drive, because I order prints every month. But I just put that into my expenses. Once you make a profit, you can start to invest that back into your business and slowly build up your inventory and build up what you offer and hopefully scale your growth over time, little by little, You don't need to do everything at once. You can definitely like have like a slow burn, which is what I did. Once you've made your products and they have arrived or you've created them, they're finished, you have them in your hands, you need to find a way to get them online. And what you need to do, first of all, is take some product photography. And this is a really difficult process for me personally. Some people might enjoy it, but I have heard a lot of artists do not like this step because it is so tedious to make sure all your shots are in focus, you have good lighting, you're showing the details properly and accurately. And I just find this really time consuming and really difficult. So I wanted to find ways to make it easier for myself. And since Skillshare is sponsoring this video, I decided to look through their classes on product photography. Now, if you don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes in all sorts of different categories. There's illustration, fine art, graphic design, photography, and Skillshare now has learning paths, which is basically a curated bundle of classes that you take in a sequential order to learn a specific skill. And I think this is a pretty cool addition to Skillshare because this wasn't always a thing. And I think it's kind of cool to have groups of classes that are relevant to each other. I decided to watch Christina Turner's video about product photography, and I learned a few things about editing photos in Photoshop, which is a program I use to edit my photos, and how to brighten images in a more efficient way than I have been doing it, which was pretty cool to learn. Anything that can make this process more streamlined and easier for me is a huge win, so it was nice to explore classes related to that. And Skillshare also has a new and improved class system with smarter class categories, new class topics such as creative careers, which is very relevant to this video, and creative inspiration. They also added the ability to find classes by software and material. You might find yourself with extra free time this summer and you might want to learn a new skill. So if you do, the first 500 people to use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. You can get started today. Now to talk more about product photography, I usually dedicate a day or two to this per shop launch. I use my DSLR camera to take the photos. I have tried to use my phone before, but my phone is just not good enough. It does something weird with the exposure. Sometimes I use my phone. I like 99% of the time use my DSLR camera though, the one I'm filming with right now. Make sure you find nice lighting. Natural lighting is the easiest to work with because it looks natural. You don't have to mess around with angling it. You just have to find an open window with light coming through, or you can even do it outside. It's also good to have a nice backdrop that contrasts with your products. You don't want the backdrop to take away from your products, but you want them to not be too similar so that they blend in. You kind of have to find a balance, and you also want it to fit your aesthetic. Like on my shop, I like to have things sort of look very natural, nature inspired, like woodsy sort of feeling. So I use like wood for the background. I add dried flowers, all sorts of things like that. Some people do colored paper in the background and have more like bold colors. You can also do a very clean and simple way of taking photos where you just use white paper or like a seamless background. Like in the first Skillshare class I mentioned, she shows you how to do that, which is pretty cool. And I've been wanting to try that, but I don't really do white backgrounds, so I don't know if I'll get a chance to use that. Some people just use their phones and edit everything on their phone. This can definitely work as well. Like phone cameras are pretty good these days. And my favorite app to edit things on my phone is called Snapseed, but I usually edit my photos on my computer with Photoshop. I use the curve adjustment and I take the little eyedropper for selecting your white value, and it sort of like auto color corrects the whole image. And I also use the levels. I use the dodge tool and the burn tool to like brighten the shadows. I do a lot of things to make it look the most appealing while still being accurate to how it actually looks in real life, because you want your customers to know what they're getting. So product photography, it's going to take a little bit to get a system down. You just have to be very patient with yourself. Give yourself time to set everything up, to take nice photos. Don't overcomplicate things. You don't need really like complicated decorated photos. I have some really simple photos on my site. It just all depends on your branding and how you want things to look. You can really keep it very simple and focused on the product. So another big question is, what platform should you use to sell your art? And there is no one single answer, but I will give you some of my knowledge on this subject. So basically, there are two main types of platforms. There are the platforms where you are responsible for driving all the traffic to your website. This is like Shopify, Big Cartel, things like that. And then there are websites that have a marketplace function like Etsy and Store Envy, Amazon stuff. I'm not saying you should use Amazon, but you search it has like a search function where you can find tons of products related to your search. You click on one and they're all from different stores. And usually on the platforms that have marketplaces, you end up paying more fees and you end up not earning as much profit as the ones where you have to drive all the traffic yourself. But the trade-off is that if you don't use the ones with marketplaces, you have to drive all the traffic yourself. So if you have a large following, you might want to consider starting with Shopify or Big Cartel. But if you do not have a large following, Etsy could be beneficial for you. Just make sure you research all of the fees. Make sure you select that the buyer pays shipping. I've never used Etsy before, but I know that some people have success on there while there also being a lot of like pros and cons. They do have a lot of fees, so you have to keep that in mind. And there are fees on these other platforms as well, but usually you have to pay like a monthly subscription. Like for my Shopify, I pay like almost 500 Canadian a year for my Shopify site, and then each transaction gets a small fee taken off. It's a pretty small fee. It's nothing like Etsy, but I do have to pay that yearly subscription. After these two main types of platforms, the ones where you drive traffic and the ones that have like a marketplace, like a search function on them, there are two other ways to sell your products. The first way is the most straightforward. You have the inventory in-house. When you make a sale, you pack it up and you ship it out. There's a second way where you have a third-party print-on-demand place that fulfills all the orders for you and sends them out, and all you have to do is upload your art and format it properly. If you want to do the latter, I would recommend trying out Fourth Wall, because I've heard a lot of my artist friends who do like print-on-demand stuff, they use Fourth Wall, and basically you can build your own like website. Like you can customize the storefront, which is not something you can do with other places like Redbubble and stuff like that. Plus Redbubble and Society6 take a huge fee. Like you do not make much from those sites at all. But I believe on Fourth Wall, you have more of a profit margin, which sounds really great. And they're integrated with Printful and other fulfillment places. I'm not sure what the other ones are, but I know that they're integrated with Printful. And the quality seems good, and I have heard great things from them. So if you're not able to actually like ship things out yourself and you want someone else to fulfill it for you, I would recommend trying Fourth Wall. There's also Imprint if you want to have like nice art prints. There's a lot of options in this category that I would recommend looking into. I haven't really used them myself, but I can speak from some of my friends' experiences that Fourth Wall is pretty good. For me, I already had an audience from YouTube, so I usually picked places that I could drive traffic to. Now, I can't remember if Ticktail had a marketplace. Ticktail is gone. After Ticktail, I switched to Store Envy, and Store Envy does have a marketplace, although not as big as Etsy, but that's not always a bad thing necessarily. But I think most of my sales on Store Envy, I was driving myself. And I think one year Store Envy was going to like raise its prices, or like there was something going on with Store Envy that made me want to switch to Shopify. And I have loved being on Shopify. It's great. They have so many tools. I really like them because they're specifically built for like e-commerce. They're not like a website first, shop second kind of thing. They are shop first. And you can also customize your website, but not as in-depth as places like Squarespace or Wix that are a website builder first with e-commerce functionality. There are differences in fees with all of these platforms, so it really depends on what is worth it for you and what you are willing to pay, which types of features you need, where you live, tax stuff, things like that. But for me, selling in Canada, shipping out with Canada Post, I use Shopify. And a good way to know when it's time to switch off of Etsy to your own site, or switching off of a website where you're paying a lot of fees for that marketplace feature, is when you notice you are driving almost all of your own sales. And then that means you can switch to your own website to sell things, because you're going to end up earning more money because of less fees. Because usually on the sites with the marketplace feature, you are paying a little bit extra for that service. Now, another question I got a lot was, how do I price my items? It's not a bad idea to look at other artists that you admire, similar scale, similar amount of followers. Well, not necessarily similar amount of followers, but like the same sort of scale of business as yourself. or as what your like aspirations are. Because if you look at a really, really popular, high quantity of orders artist, their prices are probably going to be lower than yours because they can order more inventory at once, and this means that the cost per unit is lower and they can charge less. Also, Etsy tends to have a lot of lower price things. There's a lot of like lowballing on there where people are not charging enough for their items. At least that's what I've heard, and I think it is true. Like if you search for stuff on Etsy, the prices are really low compared to other places where artists sell their stuff, like on their own websites. Try to find artists that are similar to you and take a wide like survey of everyone's prices and find like a middle ground, find what you think is fair for the quality of your specific products. Like if you have waterproof vinyl stickers, those are going to be worth more than paper stickers that aren't waterproof, stuff like that. You also want to look at how much it costs you to make a certain product. So say you order 100 stickers and it costs you $100, that's $1 per sticker, so you at least want to charge more than that. I find a good price for stickers for me is $4 Canadian or 3 for $10. You can even go to $5 or $6. That's just the price that I'm comfortable with, that I find people will buy at. Some people charge more for their stickers. My stickers aren't the biggest, like they're like 2 to 3 inches. Some people have bigger stickers, so they charge more. And all of mine are waterproof vinyl, but they're not that like super thick, sturdy, like bumper sticker vinyl. It's more of like you can put it on your water bottle, pretty decent quality, but not like the indestructible, bulletproof, like bumper sticker will last forever vinyl stickers that I see some people have, because those ones are more expensive to have made, so you can charge more. Also, when I was making my frog plushie, I was going back and forth on what I wanted to charge for these guys, because it just seemed like what everyone else was charging, it seemed fine for them, but for me, I was like, why does that feel so expensive for this? I don't know. Because when you go into like normal stores, you see plushies for like $20, $25, but I ended up pricing this guy at 45 Canadian because based on my research, that's pretty much the price that everyone is charging for plushies. Mine has a removable backpack, like it comes with an accessory, so that adds a little bit more value. And he has like weighted toes with beans in them. And I found that most people were selling theirs for like 35 US, 40 US, $50 Canadian. So I decided to do I assessed, how detailed were their plushies compared to mine. And I just found that $45 Canadian seemed reasonable. And people seemed to be fine paying that price, so I made a good decision. I did a lot of research. I looked at tons of like plushie Kickstarters to see what people charged, and that's sort of how I figured this out. You sort of just have to find a number that you think works and just go with it, and you can always change your prices later. And the reason why plushies in stores, in like Walmart or like big box stores, are so much cheaper than the artist-made plushies is because they are able to order them in like thousands, maybe the tens of thousands, and that makes the unit cost go way down. And plus, they just have a lot more customers and they make a lot more sales, so they can afford to charge less. And it's not like specifically designed for Walmart, it's probably like an available design online that's already been designed. You don't need to pay for the sample. They probably just order in bulk from somewhere, so they are able to sell things for less. But artist-made plushies are a different story because our minimum order quantity, or like the quantity that we order, is probably a lot smaller than these big corporations. So that's why artist plushies are more expensive. Marketing strategies. The biggest tip I have for this is to use social media. These are my tips. This is what I've learned from being on social media for 10 years. Well, 12 years? 11 years. I use YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. TikTok, I have the least amount of followers. Instagram, I have second most. YouTube, I have the most followers, but I think I get the most reach on Instagram these days because I started using Instagram Reels, and everyone loves Reels. I have found that using Reels has grown my Instagram account more than anything else, and I would highly recommend you post Reels and TikToks and YouTube Shorts, those three. Short form content is so big right now. It is the best way to grow your account from my experience, and a lot of people are saying this as well. And you don't have to post complicated videos. You can be going about your day designing a product, drawing something, and you think, I kind of like the way this looks. And you can film a little clip of it, put a little caption, find a trending audio, and just post it. Don't think too hard about it. Just post when you sort of feel like it. I kind of do like chaos social media where I post whenever, whatever. I like to turn my YouTube videos into Reels and TikToks so I can sort of reuse content, repurpose content, not just like straight up reposting, but I can turn my YouTube videos into the Reel format and I post them across YouTube Shorts, Reels, and TikTok. For TikTok, the vibes on there seem a little bit sillier, a little bit more casual, and Instagram seems a little bit more professional, and YouTube Shorts, I still don't really know what the vibes are there. So I just kind of post the same stuff across all three websites. I also occasionally dump a bunch of stuff onto my Pinterest account, and sometimes those get a lot of random traffic and it might drive sales to my shop. I honestly have no idea. But I do randomly get pins that like pop off on there. So if you have a spare minute, just like make a couple of boards on your Pinterest that are like my products, my art, my reels or something, and repin your content to Pinterest. And just, you never know what could happen, you know? It's better to try it than to not try it. And now social media can be really slow at first. It will be really slow at first unless you're lucky. It's important to be patient. It is a very slow progress and it can be a grind for a while before you start to see some success. And my biggest advice would be to post as if you have a lot of followers. Like, even if you have a small amount of followers, you want to give them good content. You want to treat them as if, you know, you have like a big audience. Like, you want to put out stuff that you're proud of, that you're excited about, and try to post a couple times a week. Just like whenever you are sort of thinking about it, just like post it. I usually post in the mornings because when I have like more energy for like typing stuff out and like putting stuff out into social media in the morning. Make sure that your content is high quality, well lit, edited nicely. I find that if you show your face and use your voice, I think those types of videos tend to do better, but I never do that. I barely film myself. I don't really put my voice on Reels or TikTok because I sort of treat those as my more like easy content, and YouTube is the more like high effort stuff. And high effort versus low effort content doesn't mean high quality and low quality. Like your lowest effort content could be pretty high quality because it is something that didn't take a lot of time and it's like fun and silly and you just posted it one day and people really resonate with it. And you can spend a lot of time on something and it can be really nice, but it might not do well in the algorithm. You never know how something is going to do. It is really important to just like stick with it. If this is something that you are really inspired about and interested in pursuing, you just have to keep going. It's not always easy. It usually isn't easy, but there are moments that make it all worth it. Also, something else I just wanted to mention, if you have a hard time getting online orders, doing markets can be a great way to see what does well and what people resonate with, and just seeing people connect with your work. And there's an artist that I watch on YouTube called Mulcana, and she does tons of podcast interviews with other artists who do a similar career as this, and there's a lot of like insightful conversations on there, so I'm going to link that below if you are interested in doing markets or learning more about all of this. Definitely check out her channel. I know this video is about online shops, but sometimes markets and online shops sort of go hand in hand. People like to do both. So I thought I would mention it here just in case you're interested. So let's talk about packaging and shipping, which is another big question out there. First of all, you absolutely need a scale to weigh your packages. You have to know how much they weigh before you send them out. You also need a measuring tape to measure the dimensions. I have a small scale that's very accurate for lighter items and a larger scale for big parcels because a small one is too small to like put big boxes on, so I have a bigger one. You can get these on Amazon. I try to use as many paper-based packaging supplies as possible, like glassine bags and craft mailers, cardboard, stuff like that, but sometimes I have to use plastic. It just depends on what I can find, what's available to me, but I pretty much use like all paper packaging when I ship stuff out, but when I do markets, I do use some plastic to protect things from the elements because I do stuff outside, like outdoor markets, and you never know when it's gonna rain, and you just wanna make sure that stuff stays in good quality. I use Shopify, like I mentioned, and Shopify calculates the shipping cost and adds it to the order during checkout. So you don't have to add shipping costs like in your products. It does that after the fact, and you can select a default package. It will use that as the dimensions and the weight, and all your items have a weight as well. You add them in when you're creating your products, and at the end it takes the total weight of everything in the package. The dimensions I connected with Canada Post, and I get slightly discounted shipping rates through Shopify. Shopify and Canada Post also handle the customs form. It is included on the packaging slip. You just have to make sure that you enter in the HS code, which is the harmonized system code. It identifies categories for international shipments. I just Google like art print HS code and try to find like the best fitting one, and then it stays on your product description and it goes on the customs form. When you actually go to purchase your label, you might need to update what is actually written on the customs form, because sometimes it takes the first couple of sentences or like the first couple words from the HS code description instead of your actual item description, which is super annoying. They recently changed this and I don't know why Shopify changed this. It's really annoying. But you have to edit your customs form and change what it's called if it doesn't quite fit. So when I am shipping out a plush frog, it says something like tricycles, scooters, and pedal cars, because in the HS code category, like those items are also included in the same category. So I have to edit it, delete that, and change it to plush frog figure. I don't put toy because it's not technically a toy. But anyways, that's a little bit of an annoying thing about Shopify, and there's something else about Shopify that annoys me that I will talk about later. I'll call it like my biggest problem or something in the progress bar down below, but I will get to that because it's a lot. Anyways, I don't have a big streamlined way that I package things. I package things differently depending on what people order and the combination of products in the order. I save as much packaging as I can from stuff that has come in and reuse it when I can, to save money and to save the environment, sort of. And I make a little like, this packaging is reused sticker and put it on the reused packaging so that people know why it looks a little weird or why it's being sent in an Amazon bubble mailer when they ordered from a small business. If someone orders just stickers or patches, I can get away with a regular 5x7 envelope and a stamp and send it as letter mail. I can get away with that. This means it's not tracked, but it is very, very affordable, and it allows people to buy stickers for like shipping that is less money than one sticker, which is great. I use flat mailers if someone ordered things that are mostly flat, like prints. If it's a small print, I use a no-issue mailer. It's just the one that I have. When I run out of them, I'm probably just gonna buy like a 6x9 rigid mailer, but the no-issue mailers I have to reinforce with cardboard. If someone gets a bigger print, I have to use a larger flat mailer. If someone orders washi tape, I like to use a little box from Slot Box, which is a Canadian company, and they make boxes that can fit within the Canada Post slot, but I don't use them that way. I just use them as a normal box and put shipping labels on them. Because washi tape is a bit bulky, I like to put it in a box, because the flat mailers, it kind of makes it bend a little too much for my level of comfort. So I have a slot box that can fit 5x7 prints, as well as washi tape and anything else. But if someone buys a large print and washi tape, what do? I usually use a big flat mailer, and I'll put a piece of cardboard between the print and the washi tape or any other bulky product like an enamel pin, keychain, lanyard, to protect the print from the other products. When I use a box, it's not as big of a deal to protect the print from the other products, because I can just put the print on the bottom and things won't really dig into it because it's a box. It's not like being pressed like a rigid mailer does. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff to consider when people order different sized products, different levels of how fragile they are. There's a lot to consider, and you will find a system that works for you. And that's why it's a good idea to start with things that are easy, like stickers and prints, and slowly add stuff one by one to figure out how to tackle all of the problems as they come up. And eventually you'll be able to sell all sorts of different types of products pretty easily, and you'll know how to ship them and make sure that they arrive safely. And what I've learned is that overall, the weight of your package is the biggest factor that will determine how much something costs to ship, because a lot of the standard dimensions don't really affect the cost of shipping something out. It's usually the weight. And I found for Canada Post, try to keep things under 250 grams, because 250 is one of the thresholds that makes the price jump up a lot. And then I think it's like 500 grams I'm not sure what the other ones are, but it can get up there. If you also sell in Canada, you'll know that shipping in Canada is expensive compared to the States, compared to other places. And actually shipping within Canada from like one province over or to like across the country is more expensive than international shipping because Canada does not have a small packet option. I ship with the small packet option on Canada Post. I do tracked packet for US orders, and I do small packet international air for international orders. And I find usually US shipping is around $10 Canadian, and international is like 13, 14, 15. It really depends. I do try to keep costs as low as I can while also having a reasonable delivery time frame. Now I want to talk about my biggest problem with shipping that I've encountered that I don't hear other people talk about enough, except for on online forums where people are begging Shopify to have some kind of option for this, but they don't. So there's something frustrating about shipping in multiple different packages and different product types, as I just talked about. Shopify has one type of package you can select as your default package, and it takes the dimensions and the weight of this package and uses that to determine how much the customer pays for shipping. Each item has a weight, the package has dimensions and a weight, and this is all added together and calculated through Canada Post on Shopify or UPS or whatever you're using. But what if a customer orders just one enamel pin? Well, Shopify is still going to use the same package to calculate the weight, even though an enamel pin takes a much smaller package to ship because it's really little. It's not like a big print. Shopify will still use the same package to calculate shipping for this. They do have different shipping groups, so you can put all the stickers in one group, have a set price for them, put all the other things in one group, have a set shipping rate for them. However, if someone orders from multiple different shipping categories, Shopify will add together the shipping costs instead of selecting the higher cost. So people will end up paying double shipping because you needed different shipping rules for different items. But there is a way to get around this by installing third-party apps, like I think Boxify is one of them, or Advanced Shipping Rules, which lets you add a bunch of different shipping rules to make all these calculations for you. So one rule could be like, you like program this in, like if a customer orders one enamel pin, select this package for calculating the shipping. If a customer orders a big print and a tote bag, select this big box for shipping. And it customizes what box it uses to calculate the shipping rate, depending on what the customer orders, which sounds like a good solution. However, it is extremely expensive to have this functionality added to your shop. My current Shopify plan is 456 Canadian dollars a year. That's 334 US. In order to install apps that allow you to calculate different like shipping rules, you need to have the function on Shopify that allows third-party shipping calculations. In order to do this, you have to upgrade your Shopify plan to 99 Canadian dollars a month, which is 1,188 Canadian dollars per year. This is more than double my current plan. I have like the legacy basic plan, which is $38 a month. Now, Shopify used to let you have this added to your account if you switch to yearly billing. They would just add it to your account for free if you contacted them. So I tried doing this and they said it was too late. They don't offer that anymore. So one day I was like, I really want to have like more specific shipping rules. Maybe this will be worth it for me. I got the advanced Shopify plan, like the plan that's called Shopify. That's the expensive plan. There's an even higher plan for like corporations, but I'm not on that one. I tried it out and I basically lost access to my discounted Canada Post shipping rates, which is a huge deal because some of them are discounted by a lot, and this would mean you'd have to pay so much more for shipping. Like, it just wouldn't have been worth it. So I contacted Shopify because I realized this within the same day, and they refunded me, thank God, because that was like $800 extra that I like wasn't gonna ever see for no good reason. So I got it back. I found a system that works for me. Basically, I have all my stickers and patches in one separate group, and the shipping for them is like $2 to $3. And then everything else is in the regular shipping categories that gets calculated by Canada Post. So if people just order stickers, I send it with a stamp or patches as well. But if they order anything else, it will go with a shipping label, but that gets added to the sticker cost. But I sort of treat the sticker shipping cost as my handling fee because packaging does cost money and you want to make sure you're not losing money on your packaging supplies. It does cost money. You want to calculate how much it's going to cost you to ship stuff out by seeing how much each mailer costs you to buy. stuff like that. So that the sticker group does get added to the other shipping group category. Everything sort of balances out and people usually end up paying the proper amount for shipping. And if anyone ends up overpaying for some weird reason, I will just refund them the difference and send them an email to let them know why. And that's how I do things. It's not perfect, but I found a system that works for me. And it's just like the shipping multiple different items with different boxes is just such a confusing issue that I don't know why Shopify does not have an option to like have those different shipping groups, but check a box that says like, if items in multiple different shipping categories, only charge customers the most expensive rate, instead of adding the rates together. Because like, what's the point? Of course, people are going to combine different products together in their order. Most of the time, you're not going to ship everything separately. You're going to put them all in one box. That's my little rant about my biggest problem with shipping that I don't really have an elegant solution to unless you have a lot of money. Also, I think maybe if I integrated with like ShipStation or something, I could get discounted rates too, but you have to pay to have a plan on these third-party apps and everything is just more expensive. So I just worked out that it was not worth it for me and I'm gonna keep doing things the way I've been doing them. This is why flat rate shipping is the way to go sometimes. If you have a general idea of how much it's gonna cost, just have a flat rate fee. That would be pretty nice. So now I'm going to go through some like rapid fire questions that you have asked me on Instagram and YouTube. And there's a lot of other questions people asked that I sort of dispersed throughout this whole video, but these are the ones that didn't really fit anywhere else that I want to talk about. So first of all, how do you deal with customer support? How do you deal with refunds, returns, scammers? I haven't dealt with scammers. I don't really know what that would look like for me. Maybe like a PayPal chargeback, but I haven't dealt with that. So I can't really speak to that. But if a package gets lost, I'll just reship it for the customer. It's usually not their fault. It's usually the postal service's fault. Things can just go missing. It's just the nature of running an online store and you just have to like weigh your options. You want to make the customer happy. And is it really that big of a deal to reship something for them for free if it means they get what they paid for and you just lose a little bit extra money through shipping? I find it's worth it to me, but if the customer put their address in completely incorrect and I have to pay a lot to reship it to them, I might ask them to pay for shipping again, or I can refund their order. I haven't encountered this problem yet, but that's what I have written in my like terms of service in case it ever does happen, because shipping can be expensive and it's not my fault if someone puts their address in wrong and then I send it to that wrong address, because how am I supposed to know? How do you go about gauging interest? Instagram polls, asking people what they'd like, or stalking a little bit and see what works. Honestly, it's kind of a little bit of all of these things. If I notice something performs well on social media, I might use this as inspiration for a future product. Oftentimes I'll just make things that I want to buy, things that I like wish were in the world, and hope that other people want it too. You have to like what you're selling. If you don't like what you're selling, well, why should anyone else like it? So it's sort of like a combination of like calculated risk and trying to get a general vibe of what people like and also your own tastes all mixed together. How do you know if you're big enough to start a shop? This can be different for everyone because it just really depends on when you want to start taking that risk, because there is a little bit of risk involved in any business. If you notice people engaging with your work, commenting on it, liking it, that might be a good time to start your shop. And you want to start with low risk items, stuff that doesn't cost tons to get inventory of, like stickers and prints. People love stickers and you can make them pretty easily and inexpensively if you have a printer and sticker paper, as I talked about previously. You can even ship out stickers with just a stamp if you can get away with it, and if it's within the correct weight limit for sending stuff with letter mail. And if you don't have a big audience, you can always try to sell on websites that have a marketplace like Etsy and Store Envy or any other place with a marketplace feature. What is the most time-consuming task? Probably product photography, as I talked about, or at least it feels like the most time-consuming because I feel like I just spend an entire day taking photos. When I go to edit them, I'm like, these are all out of focus. These all look terrible. I have to retry. And I end up reshooting the same photos multiple times. And it's just like pulling teeth. Very frustrating and tedious, but I do my best to have nice looking photos for my products. But honestly, I think designing stuff probably actually takes the longest because it can take multiple weeks to have many designs ready. It's just that product photography just seems the most tedious. If you're a shop that gets tons of orders, maybe packaging orders takes the longest. I think it just depends on like how fast you are and like what systems you have in place, if you have helpers, stuff like that. What do I sell the most of? My highest like quantity selling category of product are definitely stickers. People love stickers. I love stickers. It's fun to buy stickers. People like low commitment products that are small, not too expensive, just to get a little piece of your art. I would highly recommend any small business sell stickers. Who doesn't love stickers? My prints also sell pretty well, which makes me happy because it's literally someone just buying my art because they want to look at it. If I feel like it's a very high compliment when someone buys a print. And I think as my artwork improved, people started buying prints more because my prints didn't used to do that well, but nowadays they do pretty well, and I think I've improved a lot within the last few years. Patches also do really well. My highest earned product on my store was my Frog Lovers Club patch, which is out of stock right now, but I'm getting a new shipment that will be up in my next shop update on July 12th, Friday, July 12th. So make sure you check that out. The other products that made me the most money, not the most items sold, but the most like value, the most revenue brought in, were my tote bags, my Frog Lovers Club patch, like I said, and my frog plush, this little guy. I hope you enjoyed this video of my tips for running an online store. I feel like I could talk about this for literally hours. So if you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments. And if I get enough like unanswered questions that I didn't cover in this video, maybe I'll do a second part to this video answering your questions. So like specific things you want to ask about. Remember, I do not live in the States. I live in Canada. So if there's like country specific questions, I can't answer those. But if it's like questions about Shopify, questions about social media and marketing yourself, how to promote your shop, stuff like that, definitely ask them in the comments. I just wanted to get all my thoughts out there on all these different categories, different like headings when it comes to running an online store. This is how I do it. There's always room. I feel like I'm always, okay, this is not gonna work. I feel like I'm always trying to find ways to improve things, and something I could definitely work on is my physical like organization. I'm just looking at how messy everything is. I've definitely improved over time, but it could be better. Also having more space would be nice. Also making sure not to order too much of something. Knowing like how much to order is another difficult thing. You just gotta look at like how many things you usually sell and how much do you want to have in stock, how long do you want to have it in stock for. There's so many things to consider. I could make a part 2 to this and expand on a lot of things. So let me know anything you'd like me to talk about in a potential part 2. I really hope this video was helpful. I hope I got some advice out there that I wish I had when I was first starting. I really appreciate if you watched this whole thing. I know it's pretty long, and I'll see you in my next video.